Welcome back, Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classics vs. Non-Classic. This is episode number 327 and Doubleshot number 257. Okay? First up, IDW. Both these books I did because I threw that rule out the window of only reading Marvel and DC trades. I kind of opened the door up to that when I was reading Classic G.I. Joe, the early ones. Okay? First up, Transformers, Windblade-Distant Stars. This is the third and I think last trade to collect issues from the Warblade series. There have been 2 volumes of the series. The first volume was 3 issues. The second volume was 7 issues. Now, I initially thought this was going to be an ongoing series, but I think they made it into a 7-issue limited series. But this trade just collects issues 4 through 7 of Windblade and the Combiner Hunters one-shot. Yeah, this is like set after the Combiner Wars. It's one of those recent mini events they have in the Transformer books. The first really big one they had was Dark Cybertron. Of course, that was like 2 years ago. It was a really good crossover. Of course, after that was when Megatron became an Autobot. This one is heavily focused on this character, Windblade, and of course, Ida 1, who some people might know that name. Some people think she's the predecessor to RC, just like how Orion Pax became Optimus Prime. People think Ida 1 became RC. It's questionable if that happened, but it's nice to see Ida 1 apparently. And they say that pretty much the thing with Windblade is that she's a new Transformer, an original one. Yeah, despite the fact she's a new one, she's actually quite interesting. And I say she because, well, it's a female Autobot. Something very rarely we get. I mean, when people think of female Autobots, the first one that comes to mind is RC. And also, they threw in some characters that people might recognize, like threw in Rat Trap and Black Arachnia from... Well, Rat Trap, the way he looks, that's from his Beast Wars look. I would say his first or second look that he had. They threw in Black Arachnia in here as well. The look they have for her in here is how she looked in Transformers Prime, that series. Let me show her off in here. Well, and plus they threw in, you see this guy in red? That's Knockout. Yeah, that's another character that I remember from Transformers Prime. This here, that is Rat Trap. Yeah, and yeah, that's Starscream. Everybody knows who Starscream is. Yeah, this is the artwork that they have in here. Let's see. Where is that page that has Miss Black Arachnia? Let's see here. Oh, one thing about Knockout, it's heavily implied that he's gay. Yes. It was heavily implied in Transformers Prime that he was gay. Mainly probably because he acted. I don't know. It's just, here's some sample of the artwork they have in here. It's very, it feels like the style of art, it feels like the animation style they use for Transformers Animated. That's what kind of feels like, but it's not too bad. Let's see. I know I saw Black Arachnia here. Oh, look. It's Cheetor. Yeah, look at this guy. He looks like frickin' Cheetor from Beast Wars. Yeah, that's the thing. The characters from Beast Wars are actually in this universe, which is quite nice that they did that. Let's see. Where are you, Black Arachnia? I know you're in here. Here you are. Yep, here she is. Black Arachnia. Yep, I look at her. That's the look that she had, I think, both in, not Transformers Animated. She was technically not in that cartoon, but she was in Transformers Prime, and this is her look that she had in that cartoon. She did not look like that during Beast Wars, but it's nice to see characters from Beast Wars and, of course, Transformers Prime in here, especially Knockout, because prior to Transformers Prime, I never heard of Knockout. I think that Prime was the introduction to the character, so I guess IDW was like, this guy's quite interesting, and plus, he's technically the Decepticon version of Ratchet. Basically, he's the medic of... He's the Decepticon's medic. That's simply his job. But this is good. Really good. It's written by Margaret Head Scott, with artwork by Corin Hallwell, and Sarah Patry Drutcher. I think it's how you pronounce the person's name. The Combiner Hunt, it's simply, she's just looking for people to join this galactic council. Pretty much, it's comprised, yeah. Starscream's idea for it is, yeah, this is all Starscream's idea, and she's basically just a recruiter. And her title was City Speaker, by the way. They want to have Cybertron and his lost colonies be sort of part of this galactic council, in a way, and she's out simply just to basically recruit representatives. That's simply the whole point of this. Even though, yes, it takes place after Combiner Wars. I have never reviewed Combiner Wars. I read a little bit of Combiner Wars, but I hardly remember it at all. Yeah. But Combiner Hunters is simply like, these guys will hunt down Combiners, stuff like that. It's a nice little one-shot throw in here as well, because, well, even though you got like 4 issues of Windblade, I guess they threw that in here. I think the reason why I threw the Combiner Hunters one-shot in this trade, for one simple reason. Because it features Windblade. That's the only reason why I can think of. But this is still good. 9 out of 10. Now this is interesting. Classic G.I. Joe Volume 18. Yep, this trade series opened the door to IDW right here. Yep. Now this contains issues 176 to 185. This is only like the second trade I reviewed for Classic G.I. Joe, the collected issues from the IDW era. Now, pretty much with this particular book, like I've said repeatedly with the Classic G.I. Joe books, you have to start with Volume 1. And then go all the way here. You have 17 trades. Well, as of this point, you have 17 trades prior to read this one. But because the reason why that is because they reference stuff that happened in older issues. That's simply the way the point of this thing is. I don't want to spoil it because there probably is some people who are curious to get into Real American Hero, but they're kind of like scratching their heads like, when did IDW publish these issues? Technically, IDW is publishing these issues since issue 156. And they've gone up to right now up to issue 230. Yeah, I think 230 is the most recent issue to release for this series. It's still really good. But the first 155 issues, now, some might ask, what about the Devil's Due comic that basically the Devil's Due published? That is a completely different universe. It's not the continuation of this. Hasbro deemed it non-canon prior to the start of this very series. Simply because I think Larry Hama did write that. Yeah, he did. But I think that the reason why that Hasbro deemed that one non-canon because they probably didn't like how this franchise was treated by Devil's Due. And they published 2 comic books, 2 ongoing series. First, it was simply G.I. Joe American Hero, which was also simply just called G.I. Joe. And there was also G.I. Joe Extreme, which was a continuation of that very comic book. And, of course, they had a few team-up miniseries with the Transformers, and that's it. I'll probably get into this more when I'm talking comic history about the G.I. Joe, history of the G.I. Joe comics. But IDW is the third major company to get the license for it. But, simply put, it's like, okay, it's just continuing what's been going on since IDW got the license to do this series. But one of the neat things about this is that Snake Eyes goes to Comic-Con. I am not kidding. And there's a guy who's dressed up as Optimus Prime. Yeah, I don't get it at all. I think the reason why they threw it in here probably because the issue came out at the same time as Comic-Con. Harley Quinn did the same thing as well. Except she was invading Comic-Con. And heck, they even had a point where Snake Eyes takes off his mask, but they don't show his face. Like usual. Thank you, Larry Hama, for not showing his face. They did show his face in the Transformers vs. G.I. Joe series, but in this series, they never show his face. Not technically, no. And the guy says, "Did you get that? Do you get that in your service?" And I think Snake Eyes, because he's mute, he probably gave him a nod. He says, "Yeah, me too." And it shows the guy basically where he had lost his legs in combat. That's quite nice. The fact Larry Hama put that in there. Which means that you have a writer who heavily respects the military. Who respects the sacrifices the military had made over the years. I praise Larry Hama for putting it in there. It was a nice little, nice little respect. I mean, he didn't, like, go on about it. It only lasted about 2 pages, but it was still really nice. Let me show you some artwork in here. Yeah, there's appearances by pretty much everybody here, except for Duke. Duke doesn't show up in this trade at all. The Scarlet's in here, so is Snake Eyes. A majority of the Cobra people are in here too. No Serpentor, he's still dead. But simply put, the only Cobra members show up in here are just Cobra Commander, Destro, Baroness, Zartan, Zartana, and Storm Shadow. As a matter of fact, the trade starts off with Storm Shadow being taken to the hospital, and the Baroness paying for his treatment. And the fact that she basically paid for her because the fact she's rich. That's one thing interesting though about the Cobra people, is the fact that the higher ups are basically millionaires. Well, I don't think Zartan is, but I know Destro is, and I know the Baroness is. They're both rich. I think Cobra Commander is rich. Yeah, I think he is rich. But still enjoyable. And basically the Cobra base operations in here is in a place in New Jersey of all places. Yeah, that's something that I'm like, really? You have the base for the biggest terrorist organization in this universe, in this particular comic, and it's based out of New Jersey. Okay. Maybe they lost Cobra Island. That's a possibility. I mean, they're based underneath a town they control in New Jersey, which apparently the Joes do not know anything about that at all. But this is still good. Love the San Diego Comic-Con stuff, and the respect to the men in uniform in here. I give this 9.5 out of 10. I mean, I give little hints here what this thing is about, but it's still good. But I do recommend reading the first 17 trades of this particular series before reading this very trade. Otherwise, though, you will get lost. But lucky enough, I've read all the issues of G.I. Joe American Hero, so I'm not really lost. And that series, yeah, the issue 230 came out last week, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it came out last week. I do have a feeling that sometime, not next year per se, my guess is in 2018, we're probably going to see issue 250, which is really cool. So, I would say soon, in the next couple of years, we'll probably celebrate like 100 issues published by IDW. Now, this particular comic, G.I. Joe American Hero, is the longest comic book published by IDW that's still going on. Now, despite the fact they've had other comics published over the years, and I've done research, I've done a little bit of research on this. If you look at IDW's catalog, Real American Hero is the only one who's actually publishing the longest. But what is the second longest? That's easy. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Lasted about the same amount of time. Though I think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles started a year after Real American Hero did. Yeah, I think so. Either that... Actually, no, I think they started around the same time. The only reason why Real American Heroes published a little bit more was because there was a brief period of time, I think last year. Yeah, last year. Last year, I think it was like late last year, early this year, where the storyline Cobra World Order, they had it where, because they ceased publication of the other G.I. Joe books, they briefly had it where the Real American Hero book increased publication from once a month to twice a month. So that's the reason why they got to this number so quickly. In just a year, because I think last year they were like 212-ish, something like that. They're pretty much where Savage Dragons right now. But still a great comic book. I highly recommend it. So, that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for our next episode, which is episode 328 and Doubleshot number 258. Okay? But until then, I will see you there.